Hey, Adam. Welcome to
Yeah,
EHXFM.
hi Adam. Thanks for having me here.
And I hope Adam is pronounced perfectly, right?
Yes, you're very good at this.
Yeah, I practiced in my entire life. So, yeah, this is one of the few occasions where I can actually use my knowledge. Yeah, what was your first computer?
Yeah, my first encounter with the computer was the Commodore 64. But this was not
Cool.
my machine, so we were gathering the early 90s. So I'm sure that's for those who remember those times, they know that the computer, especially in small towns in Poland, was rather rare thing. So we were gathering the hordes around this C64 and playing Builder
Mm-hmm.
Dash or Sokoban or Contra was also the thing there, I guess.
Sokoban, I remember. This was like a Japanese samurai, something like this, right?
Uh, Maybe in the story, in the graphics, you were just pushing the blocks.
Oh, no, then it's something different.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but that was a huge amount of fun and a fascination with the thing. That someone can
Mm-hmm.
create words like that, and we can dive in. But I was
What small town? I thought Poznan is not that small. I was there. I visited Java User Group. It was actually quite big.
yeah. I am not originally from Poznan.
Ah, okay,
I'm from Kcynia, which is a small town closer to Bydgoszcz, so
okay.
some 5,000 people living there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So C64 first encounter with the computer, and then around 92, we bought. My father bought for us and for himself first PC.
Mm-hmm.
So
And you kept playing or gaming
yeah,
or?
in the beginning I was kept playing, but we were so fortunate that because of the computer was still quite rare thing. My family offered a time with a computer to a student who needed a computer and didn't have one. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember that guy was coming to us, and he was studying telecommunication, I guess.
Okay.
And the deal was that he will learn me coding.
Mm-hmm.
I was very interested in that from the angle that I wanted to create games. So games are
Mm-hmm.
cool. And I would like to create one by myself. So he started to teach me Pascal.
Uh-huh.
And so no internet. I remember those A4 sheets of paper with all the comments written there with explanations. And I was looking at this and how to put this together. So around fourth grade, I wrote my first program, adding.
Four grades, so crazy in Pascal.
Yeah. Through Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
Through Pascal was great.
And
I have all the great memories with that one. All the documentation.
yeah, too. I also like
Yeah.
Turbo Pascal, but for me it was the first programming language where you can create a native executable. This is what fascinated me because what I couldn't understand, as I did BASIC, but for me somehow I couldn't understand why in BASIC you have to run it. You cannot start it directly, right? So it's like I couldn't get the difference between interpreted and Turbo Pascal. And for me, the Turbo Pascal was the real thing because you could create the exe, right?
Yeah. I didn't have any experience with basic or interpreted language, so the Pascal was the first thing, and it was
Huh.
quite self-contained because all the documentation was there. And
Turbo Pascal, I guess, right?
yeah, true Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
This blue one with the
Mm-hmm.
yellow fonts. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that was the thing.
What was the first program again?
Some adding of numbers,
Okay.
and then I quickly started to experiment to get those role-playing games with a lot of
Mm-hmm.
texts. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so if you are in the room, there are some monsters there. What are you doing? Yeah, so
No,
one option B.
if else.
Yeah.
If Adam with monster killed. There's a lot of typing, right? You guys write lots of text.
Yeah. That's true. And then interaction was not, I would say, premium one. So
Okay. How much time do you spend coding then?
At that time, I guess, especially in those colder months, most of my time after school.
Very cool.
Yeah, but the problem was, in fact, I realized this later on, because it was really hard to do things with only those resources which I have there. So no access to the internet and things like that. And also, it was in such a small town, it was also hard to explain to the lady in the bookshop what kind of books I would like to have. Yeah, so I was, hunting everything. And then later on, I started with the demo scene and with assembler, and it was even harder to get stuff about that.
Yeah, but how you started with the demo scene? So how you met someone, in a small town?
Yeah, but I had some colleague met by a friend of a friend, and then the demo scene at that time was all about regular post and floppy disks in the envelope. So all those creepy stories about ladies at the post office who hate those people who are sending floppy disks and stamps very heavily on the envelope to kill the floppy disk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was stories like that.
Never heard about that. So and why hated floppy disk?
I don't know. This was the urban legend, to explain why those floppy disks are not working when they were, get to the final point.
Okay.
Yeah. So and this was.
And this is why CDs were invented. This was the reason.
Yeah.
So now we know.
Yeah, CDs would handle that better, definitely. Yeah. But this was.
So I don't understand. So you had to write something and then send the floppy disk where to a competition, or?
No. There was a thing called swapping. So I would say informal internet. So you were getting, for example, disc mags. So the magazines on the written in the way like, for example, the game were written. So it was quite graphically appealing, with some, dragons and some graphics around. And there was a text with the music. So you can read this in a pleasant atmosphere. And there were all sorts of different articles there. Among them, there were things called adverts, when people were broadcasting their physical address and things which they are interested in. So if you wanted to get a contact with someone, you were simply typing the letter, putting this on the disk, adding some interesting intros or demos or some other stuff on the disk, music, and you were putting this and sending to this physical address of a person you never met. And from time to time, this person were responding and sending some other stuff for you. So,
but how you got the list of addresses?
From this disk mag, fanzine. I don't know how to call this differently. So.
Interesting. I never heard about that. So this is like almost like an internet, right?
Yeah, internet, but using traditional mail. So the transfers were quite low.
Was it worldwide?
Yeah, it was strong in Europe, definitely.
Okay.
There were some people from States also doing this. And especially on the older platforms, I would say older brothers, platforms like Amiga or Atari, they are still have those meetups, copy parties
cool.
Till today. Yeah, so
which year was it, roughly?
It was 98 till 2002, I guess. 1998.
Yeah. Well, there was a Java show already around.
I've never had to know Java at that time.
But 95 Java was out, so this was the internet was already available back then.
Yeah, but not for me. My first encounter with Java was when I joined the university, so 2002.
And okay, and so you joined the demo scene. So what they did with the assembler then? Like,
yeah, thanks to you, I motivated myself yesterday, and I even was able to find the source code of my only released 64K intro. And
then you should put it on
yeah,
GitHub.
it is.
Then I will put it in the show notes, of course. So you have to send me emails. This is great.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if the source code is complete. For sure, there is no music here in the source code, but there's huge amount of those short comments like you see in the assembler. So
okay,
move this to AX.
And what happens then if you start it? Is it like I don't know? Is it like animation or is
it's a real-time generated animation, so it is not a video. And the idea here is to get the most out of the machine which you had at the time. And as I said, this is dynamically generated. So there were different categories of those demos. So demo is, I would say, a full-length movie. So there was no restrictions around the size, the number of files, or the length in terms of the time of the animation. And there were also smaller ones like Intro 4K. So the entire program was need to have only 4 kilobytes. And Intro 64 entire program after compilation with the music, with everything, with objects, I had to fit in 64K. So, and in those copy parties which I mentioned, there were competitions in which people were competing with those intros. And at some point, when the 3D graphic cards came in, people started to generate really whole words in those 4Ks or 64Ks. So
it was a lot of work, right? You spent. Okay.
So, but it was really impressive. It was around the time when I guess the Quake was released. So all those effects were developed in a similar way.
So you know assembler?
I knew assembler.
Yeah, sure, but you could remember if you like. So so what was the next thing? So you spent some time, replicating how to call it, resilient version of internet, right? Which worked offline even. So what was the next thing? So what do you program after that? Because I mean, demos are sophisticated. This is like 2D or 3D programming, low level with performance in mind, right? So this is like crazy. So what was the next thing you did?
The university,
what you studied?
I started computer science.
You knew that you would like computers, right?
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that I was studying computer science since I started to program. So I had a lot of fun with it. I still have a lot of fun with it. So
yeah. Where you studied in?
I started in Poznan University of Technology. So here in Poznan, this brought me.
This is where we met the first time, right?
Yeah. In 2007, 8.
Yeah, exactly.
I also have the poster. When I was going through the archive, I found a poster of you with the invitation to this first NetBeans day when we met.
Ah, okay. So, I still remember for unknown reasons the university because it was I remember modern building.
Yeah.
So it was, And we tell this story later. But so you started to study there and you learned Java there.
Yeah, we were exposed to different programming languages. So I was also doing, in the curriculum, there was also C++, C, Prolog, and all of these are things like that. Delphi, I don't know. So we were also doing this. But I remember that starting from this 2007, when I started to be involved in Poznan Java User Group, I was already after the initial contact with Java.
What is the impression? So you learned Prolog and C++ and Java. You like Java the most, or you like the others? Which was the most interesting experience?
I really like Java the most. Yeah, so it was the highest level out of those three. Maybe Prolog is the higher level, but it was too abstract for me. But Java sounds like a practical thing. I think which you can run anywhere. And
with Java you started. It was Java 1.2, I guess, right?
Yeah, the first applets which I wrote, I guess this was 1.2, and then first projects which I were involved, I would say in a more professional way, were written in 1.4 and 1.5.
Was it during the university, the project?
Yeah, after the bachelor thesis, and as a part of preparing of the bachelor thesis, this was we wrote with my colleagues. We wrote a system to manage the CVs, applications of people, and their post processing on the side of the company who was willing to hire. So this was a system written entirely in Java. We didn't use any frameworks, I think. So it was all servlet based with velocity templates used to render stuff on the front end side, some JavaScript. So no Java server faces, no Spring, no enterprise fix. Just low level.
And this was like commercial projects. You got money for it, or it was just hobby?
Yeah, this was in fact our bachelor thesis.
Okay.
So it was developed for the company who were cooperating with the university, and and we were supervised by the students from the higher grades. And we had a client from this company who was meeting with us every 2 weeks to see the progress, to see the demo. And so it looked more or less like an actual real software development.
Which year was it, roughly?
It was around 2004, 2005.
Okay. And how Java User Group in Poznan started, or Poznan?
There are only legends about this. I think that the whole thing started around 2002 or 2003. I was not involved in that. Maybe 2004. So
very early, actually.
Yeah, very early.
There were worldwide not many Java user groups around, I would say.
Poznan Java User Group is quite old, I would say, in terms of the entire scene in Poland. That's for sure. But there was some pause after that. So they had a few initial meetings, and then it all stopped. Because like with every community undertaking, as long as leaders have time to push the whole thing, the whole thing rolls. And at some point, those people started to have families, other obligations, and were not able to push this. So in 2007, I've got involved in this and reacted.
How? You just wanted, or?
No, one of those initial founders was my boss. At the time, and Marcin was kind enough to introduce me to people who were in this initial group, and he gave me some space to organize those meetings. So regular meetings like we had every month, or those special ones like the NetBeans Day, which we mentioned, Eclipse demo days, or later on conferences like Geekon.
And what you did after university? You started to working as a Java consultant, or?
I right after my bachelor thesis, and I was still in the university working on my master thesis, I started to work on the software which was intended to catalog and make available in the internet of the old newspapers, old books, in general, cultural heritage. And we were developing this software for mainly for Polish libraries. So, these classic libraries, they will also have some digitization departments, focusing at that time mainly on digitization of scanning and preparing for making them available on the internet, all newspapers, those from the early 20th century. Because they were, printed on the paper, which started to fall apart. So they were pretty interesting to scan this and make this available and we were writing a software which on the backend side was, searching through the entire corpora. We were able to manage vocabularies to describe those things, so types of the objects and things like that. And on the front-end side of things, people could have accounts, observe some objects, suggest changes in the description and things like that. And this software is now used, I guess, by more than 60 libraries in Poland. So it's still in use. There are still new versions developed.
How big was the team? Was just you, or?
When I joined, there was 4 people.
Okay. And this was like company, or what was it?
This was the it was called Supercomputing Center. So
Wow.
it was something which was handling the the network for the city. So and also the part of the Polish high-speed scientific internet. And a part of that, they came up with the idea to develop some additional services on top of this.
And you work for the company?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. And this was the first project was, and which framework? So Java was, I guess, Java 1.5?
Yeah, Java 1.5, then later Java 1.6. I was rewriting this because of the performance enhancements. 1.6 was also quite cool. And this was also a pretty plain thing. So no Spring, no EGBs, just servlets.
Which Tomcat? Or?
Yeah, Tomcat. We were Tomcat Hibernate. But we found that the Hibernate was pretty cool because we wanted to be compatible with different databases. And in fact, Hibernate was a sort of intermediary layer to give us that. So also Velocity, so no GSPs, jQuery in the front, quite a lot of JavaScript on the HTML side. And those services which were a part of this, they all could be deployed on the different servers for scalability. And the communication between them was done with the RMI.
Wow. But I really like RMI because it was simple. It was underestimated how easy it is, because since JDK 1.3, you don't even have to compile anything. You only needed an interface. You said lookup and you were done, right? The only problem with RMI were the ports and firewalls. This was the network was the problem sometimes, because it was port, I still remember, 1099. But I mean, I still remember it was like naming rebind, I think, or bind, and then lookup, and you are ready to go. So this was a 2-liner, and it was a way simpler whatever we have right now, right? So
yeah, it was quite simple, but there were some issues. I remember that we were I was pretty frustrated as a person who were deploying this and updating this on the client sites. And also as a developer, there were some issues when those interfaces, as you said, were not compatible. So, for example, the build versions, different libraries, and the I don't know how to say this, fingerprint of the interface was different. So there was no change in the actual data which were going through the wire, but the interface was changed and didn't look.
The UID of the parameters you had to set serialization, I guess, right? Okay. So what happened afterwards? So how long you worked for the company?
I was there for quite a while with different projects. We were also.
So what was the next project then?
We were also doing some with transcription of the old documents. So for the things which were printed or written before the 19th century, for the 20th century, at that time it was pretty hard or impossible to have the OCR, so optical character recognition, to make the whole thing searchable. And we started to work on the virtual transcription laboratory. And this one was written in EJB's EJB 3.0, and you were one of the inspiration to start with this setup.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
so then you pick Glassfish, I guess.
Yeah, we were using Glassfish. And then later on, we were also experimenting with the JBoss, but I guess it all ended up with the Glassfish. Arquillian, pretty forgotten thing, but it was quite cool to run the whole test suite with this. And yeah, it worked quite okay. At that time, I remember we had a problem with Eclipse, so we started to lean towards NetBeans as an IDE. Because NetBeans, Eclipse was not handling those EJBs in, I would say, predictable manner. So sometimes you had to spend whole day with rescuing your project because it stopped from compiling. And NetBeans with Maven was really solid.
Which year was it roughly?
Oh man.
Before 2007?
No, it was definitely after that. This was definitely after that. As I said, you were one of the inspirations for.
Just because they talk in Poznan, what you saw? Or
not only this one, I was also attending your talks at different conferences like Geekon and some internet things, and we were also discussing this within the project group, and we found that I'm not sure if this still stands, but at that time we thought that the standard will protect us in the long run. To have this whole thing easier in terms of maintenance and get developers after some time.
The interesting part, so right now I get my old clients back, so they come back and say, okay, now we have to go. And recently they wanted to go to containers first. So it was an ancient project with JBoss or Glassfish. And the interesting part is what we said, 2007. So if we build, the applications without external dependencies and simple. So the migration is quite simple and they were always fun. And my clients were happy because we spent far less time than estimated. And so the worst case you had to do is to rename Java, Java X to Jakarta E, but it's just search and replace. But what you had to do is, I was at recently some such projects. For instance, back then there was no configuration, so we had to inject our own configuration, and it was replaced by microprofile config. So the matter was deleting old code, but the applications ran for years, and I have lots of success stories. So I would say all my clients were happy because they said, was also interesting. A larger projects, they said, in the neighbor department, they experimented with Play framework, Akka, and whatever. And whatever they did, they had to migrate. And they sticked with Jakarta E, and a small team could evolve. So they fully focused on business logic and completely ignored all the frameworks. And they just, moved from Glassfish to Payara, and now from Payara to Quarkus, but the code remains the same, and the runtime was smaller, faster, and so forth. So I would say, I think back then, if you started with Java E, you saved a lot of money. So this is what I saw my clients. So they never had to migrate anything, except of course if developers pick something external library. So this is what I think worked well. So that actually the promise of standards really worked. And now there is a revival of that because I'm now in some critical projects. And this is the same thinking, not because of standards or vendor neutrality, and more about, if we don't have external libraries, we don't care about security problems and upgrades and stuff like that. So it's the same story with different motivations. So feedback to you. So whatever we did back then, it was actually a good thing. And I actually don't know any of my clients who said it was a bad choice to use Java E back then because we had some trouble with migrations. Actually never heard that. And what I also never heard, that EJBs were too slow or something. This was a myth. Because if you use Glassfish and you were and you just injected the EJBs, what we did, just inject the class at EJB and later at inject, it was faster than CDI. And you can also migrate this thing very easily to Quarkus. So we did it also recently. because at inject you had to remove at stateless, or you created your own stateless annotation with CDI, and you can move to from EJBs to CDI very quickly. What we also did in another project, we migrated an ancient project with JSPs and whatever to Quarkus, and it was fun. You just you say, okay, this is old code, we don't need it deleted. So, but the code was well structured, but old code. So it was fun, to migrate it to Quarkus.
I remember the only part of the the whole suite which we were not very satisfied with, because the application was quite front-end heavy, and what was this, the JSF? Maybe it worked for more enterprisey applications with a lot of forms, but with our front-end, when we had to write a lot of custom things. So imagine that you have this old newspaper, you need to get the bounding boxes around the lines of text, you need to resize them, then you need to bind this to the text layer.
So you used the visual editor?
Yeah, we had the visual.
Yeah, this only worked well for forms. It was not very scalable. Sometimes it crashed, so you're right. But most of my projects later moved to how it's called, the the most famous JSF implementation. It is called
Prime Faces.
Prime Faces, exactly. And they are still happy, right? Interestingly. Okay. Yeah. So work for a startup, and we had to implement like a backend management or administration UI, and the developers on a weekend created the entire thing with Prime Faces. So this is a thing. The problem, it is out of fashion. So now Prime Faces pushes towards web components, which is fine. So you can just migrate from Prime Faces to similar stuff. Interesting. So I didn't knew that you actually used Java a lot. So I thought we met a couple of times, not very often. So recently at the conference, but back then I remember you invited me to another conference, Vuelace, after 2007. But the story about 2007 is really interesting, because I don't know how it happened. I was member of the NetBeans Dream Team just because I used NetBeans.
Yeah, there was NetBeans Dream Team. You are right. There was such a thing.
Yeah. And I became, because I wrote a blog post about NetBeans, and I get feedback to developers, because there were things which I didn't like and things we like, and we had a very good relation with the development team. And they said, okay, this is NetBeans World Tour. Could you please participate? And there were crazy cities, like I don't know what it was, but it was far away, USA and even Japan or whatever. And I said, I cannot do this. I cannot just leave a project and go, on vacations for 2 weeks. And then I tried to get to Frankfurt, and Frankfurt was already taken by someone else. And I said, Poland is actually cool, because like Frankfurt, so I can fly, to Poznan and to Danzig, it's direct flight, perfect. And but then there were two guys from US. Actually, the Heritian, and the other one was Karol, I think was his name. Yeah, and the Karol wrote me a mail, say, you only have, we are from Sun, and he rented a car, and we can go from Poznan to Gdańsk, is no problem at all. And I said, okay, this is strange, but we can, sure. So then just do this. So, and we met in Poznan at the university. I never met the guys directly, I think. And then I delivered my presentation, I guess, about NetBeans and Glassfish, because this is what I did in projects.
Yeah, NetBeans and Glassfish, the synergy of pragmatic Java EE6 development. That was the title.
Yeah. And and pragmatic is what I did, because I had I knew crazy German architects with multiple layers and transformers, whatever, and I skipped everything. So okay, we just do add inject and we are done. And this was basically the presentation in Poznan, and I delivered the same presentation in Gdańsk at the university. And we had I think one day, so after your talk, we had to move to Gdańsk and do this again. And so this is, I think, where I met you. I'm not sure, because I remember meeting you somewhere else. You invited me to another conference where we spent more time together. It was a larger conference in Poznan, I think. Maybe it was Geekon or something similar. And so you organized the thing, but this was big.
Yeah, Geekon was the first one was in Krakow, so 2009, I guess. And 2010, we did the edition in Poznan. So
Then 2010, I was in Poznan 3 years later. But the story was, this was really interesting because Karol got BMW and he drove like crazy. So this was the first thing. But there was no nav.
alrighty.
And we couldn't leave Poznan because we move in circle. We have the all around, but because we couldn't find, the highway to Gdansk. And Hetian had a kind of a smartphone. This was pre-iPhone, but he had no data plan. So we only saw the road like a line and a point where we are. So we roughly had to estimate whether we go to the right direction or not. And Karol drove like crazy. I never saw such a thing. So we overtook, trucks in impossible. And I say, okay, this is crazy. Why I just drove with the guys. And then we end up being in way too late in Gdańsk. So my hotel was already done. So I rebooked. I was in another hotel. And this was like one of the craziest story there. And what I remember in Gdańsk, just for fun, I said, okay, this Gdańsk is like Danzig, and because there is a band, Danzig, like, and they didn't like that. So Danzig, Gdańsk, like, yeah, there's a band, and after that we had a session with the professor there at the university, and this basically what was. But from this from this 2 sessions, basically, a lot of stuff happened. I was invited to your conference 2010. There was Oktoberfest or something like this. What they also invited me.
Yeah,
and we had
Oktoberfest. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is what happened back then. So it was actually impactful event back then.
I didn't know this story about getting to Gdańsk.
Yeah, this is why I remember everything about that, because it was craziest from all perspective. Okay. This is like because I had no time to participate in any event, so I picked Poland because I said this is very near and son is happy. Then I didn't expect it. Karol with the BMW, and there was a Tony Apple was also in the car. Yeah. And Tony Apple studied biology years ago, and so we had a nice conversations about aging the entire time. So and we are, but this was crazy. And this basically this was my world tour in NetBeans, where I picked the nearest city, and after that you implemented the with Glassfish. You used Enterprise in the Supercenter, right? In the Enterprise Java, to implement cool stuff.
Yeah. It was after that. And certainly we had some problems in the beginning just to run that.
Wait a second, last question, because his name is the Geekon organizer, Lucas?
Yeah, my Poznan co-organizer friend is Lucas, yeah.
And I met him as well there. Mm-hmm. And what he told me, he asked me about books, and I gave him a book list which worked well for him, something like this. This was a backstory as well. And he was organizer of the Poznan Java User Group, or he was in Danzig? This is what I don't know.
No, Lucas is here in Poznan, yeah.
Hey, cool. So, because Lucas is a co-organizer of Geekon, which is also a large conference right now. But he was a student back then, right?
Yeah, we also met for the first time at this NetBeans Day. So it was kind of, I would say, pivotal moment for the for the entire world, or at least Poznan community.
This was crazy. Yeah, cool. So, okay. So, which other cool project you did in the Computing Supercenter?
This transcription laboratory was the last one, but we had very different projects. And I was it was fun to work there because of the diversity of the whole thing. So I remember that I was the center was involved in organization of the World Climate Congress here in Poznan at some point, and they were working on the video transmission. And at that point, the video transmission, HD video transmission was a huge thing to do, and they were trying to make this available also on the Linux platforms. So I was, sitting for I remember a few days, trying to find a way to run VLC as a player for the Linux users. And it was a pretty hacky thing because I ended up with finding some undocumented switches, which made the whole thing work. So on the other side, we were doing the e-learning courses. So I was e-learning course developer, and this course I remember was about digital librarianship, was quite heavy used, and for example, in Ankara University. So I've heard that more than a few thousand of Turks were exposed to this content. So I hope that.
So you are famous in Turkey now.
I don't think so.
So if you do vacations in Turkey, you are the king.
I need to check it out if someone remembers that. But yeah. So this was also distributed in some surprising places, but it was quite, I would say, interesting to work on this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we were doing also things with European library, which is called Europeana. I don't know if you have a chance to use this. It allows you to browse through the entire network of the libraries in Europe. And this is how I at some point I ended up with the Polish television in the breakfast program telling about this.
So you were on TV?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal, yeah.
Crazy. And was it somehow Java related?
No.
Yeah, this is unfortunate because with Java and Polish breakfast TV, you know.
It would be really cool to sip coffee there and talk about Java. Yeah, I'm right.
How many takes, or was just how was the experience? It was like easy, or
it was for me it was a complete chaos. Yeah, so no contact with them before, getting there half an hour before, talking with those presenters, more or less. Aligning on what we will talk about, and then it was a live program, and then I was in the train back to Poznan.
Okay, so was it a nice experience or chaos?
Yeah, definitely. I have good memories from it.
Interesting, or was it like you are disappointed?
No. I had good memories from that.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you are now famous in Turkey, now Polish TV star. What happened afterwards? I'm already curious now.
Yeah. Then I left the Supercomputing Center and joined Allegro, which was, I like imagine a kid going into the candy shop with unlimited budget. So going into Allegro as someone who.
What is Allegro?
Allegro is the biggest Polish e-commerce site. So some compare it to Polish, some say Polish eBay, some say Polish Amazon. But it is something which is.
Is it true that Amazon is not that big in Poland, or is it?
It's only a fractional market. So Amazon Allegro is 25 years old. It was an anniversary this year, and it is really a top of mind place for Poles to go and buy stuff.
And it works well, I guess, right? So
yeah, I still think so.
No, because it's really interesting story that you have a Amazon competitor which works well.
Yeah, there were also stories when eBay at some point wanted to, I would say, conquer Polish market, get into the Polish market, and they were unable to get traction.
And why not? Because Polish people don't like US. You like US usually before then, right? Now maybe a little bit less, but. But 20 years ago?
Yeah, I don't think that this was a thing related to affinity to particular country or not. But I think this was, in most of the cases, people are more attracted by the breadth of assortment, by prices, and by the delivery time. So eBay was unable to, and also to get into their heads that there is something which is called eBay, and you can buy cool stuff there. But maybe it was too early in terms of the logistics and delivery times and so on.
So was Allegro first, maybe?
Yeah,
right?
in Poland, definitely. It was first. It was first like that.
25 years ago, so it was 2000. Yeah, okay, this is right, because this is also when Amazon started. This is so remarkable, actually.
Yeah, and the funny story is that the initial name of the project was the Cyfrowa Zatoka, or something like that, which is called Bay is a Zatoka in Polish. So they were heavily inspired with the eBay and how eBay works. in the beginning, and they started.
So where Allegro started in Poznan?
Yeah, it started in Poznan.
And you know the founders?
Personally, no. I was there. I was there since 2014. So
But how they started? I mean, interesting. Was it like programmers? Was it like
There was a guy, a Dutch person, who had a Polish wife and came here, and he was, as far as I know, he was inspired how eBay works, and wanted to start such a business in Poland. He found some bright students who wrote the prototype, and they
in which language,
PHP. Allegro was written in PHP till, I would say, there are still parts in PHP there working somewhere underneath. But it was successful PHP shop for several years.
Okay, interesting.
Well, when I joined, I was really astonished because I joined because the whole thing was supposed to be rewritten to Java based, JVM based languages at that point, Java, and to microservices. It sounded really, really cool to be at a company of that size and participate in such a project. But the whole PHP thing was really, really well thought. So there were layers. There were a lot of tests, automated tests. The release was quite complex because of that, but it ended up with a high quality thing delivered to users. So I was, as a software engineer, I was really surprised how well the whole thing was organized with this PHP model.
That okay, and your job was to migrate everything to Java now.
I joined the search team, which and then there I was responsible for rewriting the search related code to Java microservices. And we were also tasked with introducing the relevance sorting order, because Allegro was pretty heavily auction based. So you put your stuff and people were bidding to get this thing. And most of the search results were sorted till the end of the auction.
And is Allegro more like eBay or more like Amazon?
Now it's definitely more like Amazon. At that time, it was definitely more like eBay.
And can you ship worldwide? So could I, as German, also buy something on Allegro?
Yeah.
That is interesting. So it's like, I mean, instead of Amazon, we can try to use Allegro, right?
Go on. I really encourage you to do that, because
this is interesting. This is actually I thought that Allegro is like consulting company, because I didn't. What I knew is that Amazon is not a thing in Poland. Is what I knew, but I didn't know, who picked, the place. But Allegro now I understand, because they also sponsor some conferences, and so this is why I always knew the name, but I never know that there was an e-commerce company.
Yeah, it's an e-commerce, and in terms of the software, it's a very interesting place.
And EPAM is the other one also. So EPAM a lot, and EPAM was, I think, consulting, right?
Yeah, EPAM is consulting. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is what I did. Two names I remember from all conferences in Poland.
Yeah, so when I joined Allegro, I was exposed to all kinds of languages. So PHP was the thing. We were also writing stuff in Node.js, and of course in Java, later in Kotlin.
In which year you joined?
2014.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was interesting time, and the search team was a quite interesting blend of the software engineering as we know it, big data stuff, and also a bit of sorcery, I would say. So getting to guessing what people meant when they were typing something when they were quite surprising sometimes. So finding a way to get the right results.
So now LLM would help right now, but
I think that LLM would have the same problem as we, because when we're doing all kinds of different experiments, when we are showing the listing, the one listing to 3 different people, all those 3 judgments were different.
Okay. And I guess you use Elasticsearch or something similar, right?
We were, and it is still Solr-based.
Solr, okay.
Yeah.
Which is similar. Solr and Elasticsearch are similar products.
They are
Lucene-based, right?
They are Lucene-based. That's the similarity. But in terms of the model which we were using, it's different because we were using, and it's still used in this way, that we started with the classic master-slave model, and then we introduced sharding, but it is a bit different. But we have still roles for two different types of roles for nodes. So there are indexing nodes and also there are nodes which are just serving the results, and they are a bit different.
How much traffic you had to handle? Transaction searches per second, roughly.
Quite a lot. I don't remember the exact numbers. I don't want to confuse them.
Hundreds, thousands.
Definitely even millions. The request rate for the search engine in peaks, I remember it was 14K requests per second.
That is not crazy, but already a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
So in terms of numbers,
and day and night, no.
The peaks were usually around one in the middle of the day, and another around 8, 9 p.m. So.
But and night there was not a global service. I would say night went down to 1,000 or something.
No,
right?
Poland. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it worked from the beginning. You faced challenges, or because.
Yeah, in the beginning we faced challenges because apart from PHP, there was also quite a lot of core services were written in C and C++. And in the beginning, it was hard to beat the performance of those. Services developed for several years, heavily optimized, and it was a challenge in the beginning. So, but we were able to overcome those and overpass in terms of performance and scalability.
So you made Java faster than C and C++, the original services.
This was not exactly the same feature set, but sufficiently or fast enough, I would say.
So, and then it was successful, and then you quit.
Long story short, after 10 years, yeah.
So you spent 10 times searching with Solr.
Yeah, on the different roles. Yes, the team was growing. Also, I was also handling I was also responsible for recommendations. I was trying to find the key to personalization in Allegro. So we also done some pretty crazy things, like we migrated the whole big data stack to public cloud.
To what? AWS, Azure?
GCP. Yeah, so
GCP.
Cloud. And previously this was all Hadoop based on-prem service, and now it is a public cloud.
I think Hadoop was not that nice experience. So right?
Not so. Yeah. There are still fans of Hadoop. I know in Allegro.
Really?
Yeah. Because
on Allegro maybe.
Yeah, but definitely Spark and Composer, Airflow folks are much nicer.
But you still remember Solr and Lucene, right? So good. So what we can do, follow-up episode just about that. Just searching with Lucene and Solr, right? Why not?
We can try. I am definitely not the best person to talk about this. I can guide you to some really cool experts who have really cool stories. But we can try.
Okay. So okay, then success or not. So you quit the company, and then we met again at GeekCon. And what I learned, you started a private bank, right?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with doing some smaller projects with my kids, or just doing some smaller projects. I remember at some point I decided to do the presentation about ML playing games, so I don't have to play games. So it was pretty interesting to find the right model and to train model to play the simple asteroid shooting game on his own. It was a cool presentation.
And was it with Java?
It was in Python. It was at that time. It was in Python. Yeah. And as you mentioned at the last GeekCon, I was talking about my very private banking project, which I developed for my kids as a sort of a way to learn them to manage personal finance. And I started with the Java application, Spring, Hibernate, all kinds of enterprise standard, I would say, Java stack, with a few thousands lines of code, deployed in Heroku, working quite well. But
why Heroku? They are back, but interesting choice.
I don't remember why. I thought that I was doing something on Heroku previously, and I know that those free tier was quite capable. So I decided to try launch Java there. But over the time, the whole project started 5 or 6 years ago. Over the time, they introduced additional costs related to Postgres database, or to those free, and this free offering was quite limited. So I decided to use the more modern tool. So I migrated the whole thing to the Google Spreadsheet.
Google Spreadsheet.
This is really interesting to observe how many lines of code is needed when you choose the higher level tool. So Google Spreadsheet comes with a whole lot of built-in things, and the whole logic, instead of those few case of lines of code in Java, ended up with 70 lines of JavaScript code to handle the interest rate calculation and sending emails to my children with their balance. So it's quite interesting how we're talking about the standards, where you select standards and limit the dependencies in your application, how this influenced its longevity. And it seems that this spreadsheet was the better choice in terms of maintenance in the longer term, because for the last 2 years, I was not doing anything with that. So
Spring is not exactly a standard. The problem with Spring is there is an API, and there's no distinction between API and impl. So it's not. But with Quarkus, or you would get also similar amount of code. So Spring and Quarkus are very similar.
I'm not talking about formal definition of standard and how this standard is maintained. I agree that the Spring is something a bit different, but this is an industry standard. And people are using it, so it's easy to get some help. But I'm sure that over time it might be more harder to get this. Yeah, for sure.
Why I'm mentioning this? Because this is actually a lot of discussion going this direction these days, and for me there is a fundamental difference whether I have to use on-premise cloud, private cloud, or whether I'm allowed to go to public cloud, or I have to go to public cloud. So sometimes we have to go to public cloud, and sometimes we have to stay on-premise. And my observation is the standard we talk about with Hibernate and everything, they are mostly only useful or pragmatic in private clouds.
Okay.
And I gave you an example. For instance, in none of the public clouds so far, which I was in charge, we deployed a relational database. So it means Hibernate and JPA is off, so we don't use it. And the reason is not because we don't like it. The reason is, if you would like to run a SQL database or relational database in the public cloud, there is you have to care about a lot of things. You have to care about network, backup, encryption, connection management, and it costs minimum 500 euros a month if you do it in a real project. So what means is, if we go, let's say, to AWS, I never use GCP. I use Azure or AWS usually. GCP is lesser known in German projects, I would say. But we start with S3. So this is our persistence story, S3. And why? Because it's orders of magnitude cheaper than the relational database. So, but if you have S3, you don't have a standard way to access S3, but you don't need a standardized way because it's basically, 4 methods calls.
Mm-hmm.
So what you get, we have one class which encapsulates the S3 access. And if you have to do something else, we don't have interfaces, factories, nothing. We just replace the class with something else and we are done, basically. It's not like, a huge ceremony. And S3 became a standard. So even if you run, on your local Kubernetes cluster, the standard is S3, the API. So we could actually move from the public cloud to on-premise and using the same API, the same Java code even to access S3 on-premise. So now the next thing is, for instance, if I was in charge, I never advised to use Kubernetes in the cloud. Except GCP, maybe. What I know, this Kubernetes on GCP is pretty good. But the other clouds, this Kubernetes is less native. It means it's not like this Kubernetes is managed out of the box. Mm-hmm. You have to install your Kubernetes or care about your Kubernetes. So you will spend a lot of time, caring about Kubernetes, and it will cost you additional money. So you will pay 100 euros roughly from the control plane per month. So the natural choice is, this is why I use Quarkus. Use Quarkus as AWS Lambda or Azure Function, for instance. And then for most enterprise projects, what happens is you pay nothing. So you get for 2 transactions per second, this is my standard calculation, and 1 CPU, 2 gigs of RAM, you will pay per month 15 euros for everything now. So roughly, maybe 20 euros. But you have 2 transactions per second for an enterprise project. No, Allegro is a lot, because this is inside the company. This is for Allegro would be way too expensive. 14,000 transactions per second. I would not use serverless. I would pick EC2 or something else. So there was different. So costs are everything. So the standard architecture would be Quarkus with old Java E code, microprofile, or modern Jakarta E, which is standard, with access to S3. This is the standard architecture. If S3 is not enough, DynamoDB, which is very similar to Cassandra. So the escape way would be if my client say we don't need DynamoDB, we are not able to use DynamoDB for unknown reasons, we will pick Cassandra because it's very similar access path. So and on premise we will use JPA and then Hibernate without knowing that Quarkus, because Quarkus ships with Hibernate. But on premise, identical architecture to 2007, highly modernized. And what happens, I don't know whether you know, the Quarkus thing, the Quarkus is crazy. It starts in under 1 second without any optimizations. It reloads code is smaller, faster, and more performant than Spring Boot, for instance. So for my clients, this is actually heaven because they have old Glassfish code and then migrate, from old code to Quarkus, and they are done in 2 days, and they get the best Java experience right now, right? And the true competitor of Quarkus is Micronaut. And the only problem I have with Micronaut is it doesn't support fully the microprofile in Jakarta E, so it is less compatible with my old code. So this is because interesting point. I wanted to explain it a bit because the standards help you if you migrate, between products like Quarkus and Micronaut. And if I go to public cloud, for me, the most important factor are costs. We are going to public cloud and we have to save costs. Otherwise, this is pointless. Why are we doing this, right? Yeah. And or there's other features, maybe, I don't know, more data centers, resilience and disaster recovery. But costs are very important. Otherwise, you cannot pay for it. And this is experience what you did with Google Sheets. We do the same. In one project, we could eliminate, 50 Postgres tables with a single S3 bucket. And JSON structure, this was also, we do it all the time. We remove lots of code, we go with a fraction of code to the cloud. Or to give you another example, because it's really interesting observation with the sheets. So you remember maybe Jenkins or Hudson, right? So you have to care about it, run it. So, and in the cloud, what we usually do, there is a code pipeline and code build. And this is basically, if a YAML, you say, okay, Maven build, and you have the maybe 5-liner. And if someone pushes something to GitHub, this thing wakes up, builds, and if you have several commits a day, you will maybe pay 30 euros a month. But such a thing is serverless. And then now it comes. You say, okay, if the pipeline is done, I would like to do something. And what you can do is you can register to listen to an event. And then if the event happens without any Java code, you can say, okay, now I would like to run different pipeline or send email or whatever. So you have no code experience without any Java code, but you can use Java, to configure the cloud, to provision the cloud. So I'm completely with you. So if you go to public cloud, you have to remove as much code as possible because it's pointless. While you would, because if you would run your Spring Boot with Hibernate on GCP, you wouldn't use the public cloud, right? Because you will miss out on features because you would not use the Google spreadsheet. You know what I mean? So in another project, we need reporting tools, for instance. So we could run our own. We could install, whatever, Grafana, whatever, but we use AWS QuickSight. So there was nothing to do. It's like, hey, QuickSight, pick data from the S3 bucket and just configure the reports, and we were done. So there was actually from maybe 10,000 of code to nothing, right? So this is a very important conversation from my point of view, because it's misunderstood. Because what, at least I'm less in Poland, but in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, what happens a lot, people have on-premise Kubernetes, and then they pick everything what they have, push it to public cloud, and they think they are done, and the costs are exploding, and they are missing out on all features,
Yeah.
And what you did with the spreadsheet is actually brilliant, because you said, okay, in public cloud there's a service. Now I'm depending on Google, but what I'm depending on is my 70 lines of JavaScript code. I could migrate it to similar service somewhere else. But if the similar service is not available, let's say on Azure, and I really have to migrate, then you have to rebuild it by myself, right? But only if it's not available.
Yeah, I think that the public cloud thing is also a standardization on its own. Like you said, it's free, and the availability of the well-defined, ready-to-use bricks to build your application.
Exactly.
This simplifies the startup and also gives you some boundaries when you shape the architecture. Yeah, for sure. That is cool. And the cost thing is also a safeguard, which guides you from thinking about overthinking, I would say.
Exactly.
Application architecture.
Yeah, discussion is a lot shorter in public cloud, because okay, this is the calculator. We have to consider that, and everything forget, right?
In the project which I was recently playing with, I also started with Google Cloud Storage. With the Google Cloud, there are some other issues, I would say. I don't know if it is the same in AWS or in Azure, but in Google Cloud, for some things, you have at least 3 different services which can, in the portfolio, which can initially be taken as a candidate to solve the solution. But some of them have those features, some of them don't have those features, some of them are deprecated. So there is a bit mess, despite the fact that this is a young cloud. But it helps a lot with those ready-to-use building blocks.
I would say the most complicated is Azure, because if you have a service like Azure Functions, let's say, and there are 2 SKUs, one premium and on-demand, and there's complete, from my perspective, the premium is more like Kubernetes, the on-demand is more like Lambda, and the pricing is completely different. In one, you have to pay per request, the other one upfront. So for me, this is a hell on earth, because if someone asks about Azure and I ask consulting, I have to ask so many questions to advise it properly, because before that, I have no idea what to tell. So then Azure Functions, maybe it will look like Kubernetes or something else. AWS is better, because what is on AWS, if you have AWS Lambda, there is AWS Lambda, it's over the same price. And now it depends whether you pick API Gateway, there are 2 flavors, or you pick, application load balancer. This depends on the traffic. But Lambda is not affected. So you have this one package is Lambda, and then you have to think about who receives the traffic, and other than that, I think on AWS there are 300 services, and you pick the service depending on the costs. So this is like Lambda is super cool if you have peaks and you can spread out the load. If you pick EC2, is the cheapest one. If you have heavy load, but you have to do the most, you can buy the instance in advance. If you pick, ECS, Elastic Container Service, is more like Docker orchestration. So it's a middle thing. It is a little bit more expensive than EC2, but cheaper than Lambda under heavy load. And there are lots of options, App Runner and stuff like that. But this is actually, you spend time in AWS Calculator, think about the traffic, and you will find easily then what is the cheapest solution, right? Or easily, you have to know roughly, what is on the horizon. Maybe there are 10 services, but I focus on enterprise, and for me, I know already enterprise is not Allegro or Amazon or whatever. They have, they're like, I don't know, 100, 200 employees that will hit the system, or even external, orders. It's not like they are ordering 100 stamps per second. This is a larger goods, I would say. Then usually serverless works well because it's cheap. Cool. Nice overview and a piece of Polish history, right? Java history. And I still have the mark, but I was in 2007, and that was the speaker number 3, I guess, or 9.
Yeah, we were giving away those marks with the numbers. Yeah. Number 3, impressive.
3, I think 3 or 9. I have to find the mark. I still have it somewhere. I forgot it. Yeah. So I have Jack Poznan with mark.
Yeah, my mark is already in heaven, I would say, in the better world.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Thank you a lot. It was a pleasure to talk with you. And
yeah.
See you next GeekCon, because you disappeared. I had always in the discussion with Lucas, like, what Adam is doing. It's like, he is just, he became a manager. So, okay, that he should create PowerPoint slides, but now you are back with code, which is a good thing.
I think so. I'm looking forward to meet you again. I hope it will be faster than the next GeekCon.
Yeah. And I have to check the flights, but if there is a Poznan Juke, we can also, the Java User Group, if still active, we can arrange something, no problem.
Cool. I will let you know. And I will send you the poster from this 2008 NetBeans Day, because...
this would be cool. Thank you.
Have a nice day, Adam. Thank you.
Have a nice day.